Everybody's talking to Paul. I hear every word they're saying on my laptop, on my phone. When life seems a constant battle, I tune into Earnest Prattle. It will brighten even your darkest day.
Hello, welcome to Earnest Prattle edition 22. Now, before we go on to today's video, just a wee bit of housekeeping. Would you please consider subscribing, liking the video, maybe leaving a comment or sharing? Any of those things would be tremendous. And you can also check out videos, previous guests and other features on my website, which is www.earnestprattle.com. So please check that out as well. But now on to today's guest. I've got a beautiful lady all the way from LERWICK in the Shetland Islands. Amongst other things, she's a children's book author, a fantastic singer, a teacher, and also a fabulous artist. And so I'm very, very pleased to introduce you to a great friend of mine, Janice Armstrong. So, without further ado, roll VT. Hello, so I've got Janice Armstrong, I consider to be a very good friend of mine now, who I met recently on my trip to Shetland in relation to the Alistair Morrison Time to Pause premiere. So start off with, Janice, would you like to just tell me a little bit about yourself, if that's okay, please?
To me, where do I start now, Paul? Do I start right at the beginning, or?
Well, have you always lived up in LERWICK, Janice?
No. So I started life in the borders of Scotland in a little town called Hawick, which was famous for its knitwear, very fine quality knitwear, Pringles, Leyland Scots, etc. So I grew up in Hawick, and then my mother, who is from the Isle of Skye, when she and my father retired, they went back to the Isle of Skye. So home became the Isle of Skye for a while.
Okay.
But then I, meantime, had moved to college in London. I went to art college in London, where I did a Bachelor of Arts in Bachelor of Fine Arts. Is it Bachelor of Arts in Fine Art? Bachelor of Arts in Fine Art. Who cares? Anyway, I did art. I did painting at the Central School in London. And then I did a teacher's training afterwards at Goldsmiths. And then I went out and worked in Zimbabwe for 2.5 years, which was probably one of the most powerful and formative experiences in my life.
What did you do in Zimbabwe?
I taught. I was a kind of eclectic teacher. I taught all the odds and ends in the school where there was a lack of a teacher. So I had to kind of turn my hand to geography and art and English, but just with the absolute juniors, the lower grades. And meantime, I also did some painting there as well. So just generally helping out. But it was a very difficult time in the history of Zimbabwe, perhaps past the most difficult time, having said that. I think independence in Zimbabwe was 1980. I got there in 86, by which time Mugabe was in power. I was in Matabeleland, and Mugabe is a Shona, and the Mashona land is the larger part of Zimbabwe. And Mugabe sent, what were they called? He sent some soldiers, 5th Brigade, I think they were called, into Matabeleland to quell what he saw as rebels and dissidents in Matabeleland, so Indibeles in other words. And I believe, I think the Roman Catholic Church has done the most thorough investigation of the deaths in Matabeleland at that time, and they estimate about 20,000 people were murdered by the 5th Brigade.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, and I think the worst of it was probably 84, 85. I arrived beginning of 86, so it was still going on, but it had lessened considerably. But now the problem was that there was also these dissident groups which had just kind of gone rogue. So I kind of arrived thinking I was going to see elephants and giraffes and zebras, and I was very excited because the school was in a very remote rural area, about 80 kilometres northwest of Bulawayo. So very, very isolated, which made us very vulnerable. But very quickly, even after just 2 weeks, there was a bus travelling on a road. I mean, we were 4 kilometres from the main road, which was just single track in itself, but a bus travelling on that main road was attacked and 2 of the passengers shot dead. And the rest of the passengers told to walk to our school. They arrived at midnight, a raggle-taggle bunch of individuals, terrified, traumatised, and they were put up in the church, and there was nowhere else to put them. And the next day, the police arrived in their kind of landmine-proof vehicles. They're kind of angled like this, so that if there's a landmine blast, it's deflected from the vehicle. So they arrived in these great big armoured vehicles and took them all away. I think they interviewed them, they took them all away. And thereafter, I'm telling you this story because this was just 2 weeks after my arrival, and thereafter, although the school didn't want this to happen, the police insisted that they put a guard at the school. So they were given an old building to reside in, and there was always about 8 or 9 armed policemen thereafter at the school. So you could be teaching your lesson, and always the doors and windows, wide open. And some, young policeman would walk by with his AK-47, and it was bizarre, and it became normal. It became, that's what you expected to see. But in retrospect, when you look back, you realise, and there were some very upsetting and traumatic events when I was there.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, luckily I never witnessed anything, thank God, but I knew of people who were brutally murdered, and that was hard to kind of process. I don't think I did process it at all. In fact, I think that's something only happened decades later, that you kind of think, oh, some of that comes back to you, and you start to realise just what a situation we were all in. But having said that, I don't want to overstate it, because whilst I was there, I absolutely loved it. And I loved the girls, who were wonderful students to work with. They were so enthusiastic about learning, and so full of fun, so full of music, which I loved. And they were brilliant at drumming. And I think a big thing I learned was how to live in community with people who were often eccentric, sometimes quite difficult. So that, you thought, gosh, 2 years with this person. But at the end of the 2 years, how you'd come to respect them, even love them, and even like them. Maybe you didn't want to spend masses of time with them, but I think that was a big learning thing for me as well, that there was these diverse individuals from all sorts of backgrounds had gathered at this place where there was such an endeavour to educate these girls. And we each had our stories, and we each some of those stories for some of those women that I met were quite difficult stories, but they were stoic, they were hardworking, and they had hearts of gold. No matter how eccentric and awkward they could be, they had hearts of gold. Their hearts were in the right place. So I was very privileged to meet them and learned a huge amount from them. And I think the school itself also, I feel so proud of it because it was the first school in Zimbabwe, and this is pre-independence, so going back a long way, to exclusively educate Black girls, because there were no schools educating Black girls in the country, and the school was the first to start. And of course there's many now, but at that time it was quite a radical move. And the head teacher who was at the school when I was there, I came to love her dearly. She was like a mother to me. A brilliant, brilliant woman. I have never met anyone with such courage as her. She was remarkable, and she's still very much loved by those who knew her. And I think there's even been a wee book written about her by an ex-student who, I think, when you meet people like that, you think, no, that was a terrific, I can't find the right words, terrific privilege, I think, to encounter somebody like Ellen Beardall.
Like I say, Janice, that is a fantastic story about Zimbabwe. So
yes, I think it's such a story in many ways. I've got so many. If I start on Zimbabwe, though, you might not stop me. So you're probably best to move on from there, Paul. But it was, as I say, formative. Mm.
So you came back to the UK. What stage did you get to the Shetland Islands?
Well, I had a brief sojourn in Oxford, where I worked in a residential home for young people who were very, very multiply, I'm not sure what the correct word is these days, disabled, but they were multiply, both profound learning difficulties and profound physical disabilities. So I worked there for about 9 months, and then I moved on to Gravesend in Kent, where I taught, which was hell. It was absolutely awful. And
Really?
again, bizarrely, I was teaching, it was mad. I was teaching RE, geography, English and art, 4 subject areas, which you couldn't do in Scotland because you can only teach the subject area you're qualified to teach. So I can only teach in Scotland. And I don't know how things are in England now, but at that time, I was employed to cover at junior level all those 4 subjects. So I did 1 term there, and then I ran, and and I went up to, at that point the job appeared in Shetland, and I came up here. So that was in '89. So I've been in Shetland since 1989, teaching at the Anderson High School here.
And so I'm going to incorporate into your video a couple of photographs from where you are, if you can. So you're kind of going to send me the view out of your window, which is...
I will, but I must also send you the view from the hill, Paul, because that's where I go so much. In fact, I think that's where I took Alistair when he first arrived with Finlay. We went straight up the hill, behind the house. It's behind the house. And it's from up there, you can see right over to the west of Shetland to the far west mainland, and you can see up north, you can see south, and then you can look east back over to where I am now. So you get this lovely panorama up at the top of the hill.
So other than being a wonderful, caring person who's a very talented teacher, you're also a part-time artist as well, Janice, is that right?
Well, I do my best. I hesitate to call myself an artist, but I'm learning. That's been an area of great weakness for me because I really lack confidence, and I'm better than I was, but I was very insecure about the work I was producing, and so I didn't produce much for many, many years, to be honest. And I think it's only in the last 4 or 5 years that I've begun to find my feet, for lots of different reasons. That's a long story, which I don't think I'll go into here. But I think in the last 4 or 5 years, I've finally been exploring and finding where is my voice with this work. And I don't think I'm quite there yet, but I'm getting there. It's a journey. So I have my wee shed out the back there, and I disappear there whenever I can. So when it's the term time, it's harder to find the time because it is so tiring being a teacher. But I go in. I'll be hopefully now. I don't work on a Friday, but I am busy in the morning tomorrow. But I'll hopefully be in there tomorrow afternoon, Saturday as well, and then Sunday I'm up to Yell for my take the pictures down from the gallery.
So yeah, are you currently showing your work at Yell? You were saying there's a exhibition at the moment. Am I right, Janice?
Up in the old hall, the lovely little old hall, which is a museum, and it's actually so worthwhile getting around that little museum, which I'm not sure everyone does. But it's got the most lovely collection of kind of domestic history, if you like, of Yell. Some of it's really poignant and beautiful. And they also do knitwear and so forth. So there's a wee gallery room there, and I have exhibited there before, probably about 3 years ago now, maybe 4, gosh, a while back. And it's a decent size because it's not too big to be scary, thinking, oh gosh, how will I fill it?
Yes.
But it's big enough to feel it's quite, you know, it's still a challenge to think, have I got enough pictures for in here? So it's a nice space to exhibit in, yeah. I guess the only thing is it's in Yell, so not everyone can get up there because that is £15 on the ferry, and the drive. So, you know, really, I think that's the disadvantage. But it's still, I'm delighted I've been given this a chance to do it this year. Yeah.
Well, if the people can't get to you, we'll have to take you to the people, won't we, Janice?
That's what Finley keeps saying.
Because as part of my talking to you today, I'm going to endeavour to, you know, showcase some of your work.
Oh, that's kind of you, Paul. Yep.
See if we can get your name out there, and see if we can get you a bit well known, so we can, you know, show what a fantastic person you are, Janice. I mean, I think, do you get a lot of inspiration from the landscape up there, Janice, in your work?
I do. I think the landscape offers this real, increasingly for me as I'm building up a kind of language, if you like, a visual language for landscape painting. And I walk a lot up here, particularly because I have a dog, my wee Louis. And
did you say so, Louis?
Louis, my little dog here, he's sitting next to me. So because I walk a lot, but also even before I had Louis, I think, what have we got in Shetland? Of course, there's some lovely social life and so forth, but the landscape and the weather is very much a part of our experience living
There's a lot
here.
of sheep, I find.
There's quite a lot of sheep.
Lots of sheep.
There's a lot of
yeah.
There's a lot of sheep. There's a lot of birds.
Yes.
But I love being in that open space, and particularly I love going up the hill or any hill. I like being on a hill. I love the sense of panorama and of being away and being on my own. I love that feeling as well. But also then the landscape makes all these suggestions to you and my relationship with that. But in a more practical way, I guess, when you're sitting there with your paper and you're about to paint, it's also about exploring ways of almost making a poetic statement about the landscape. It's like a working in prose visually for me.
Yes.
So I'm not trying to recreate the landscape like a photograph. There are other painters who can do that better than I can, and photography can do it so well. So my feeling is not to even try and do that, but to do something which is more of a personal response to the landscape through the colours, the mark making, and the composition of the image. But I do also enjoy, just as a kind of almost more as a challenge, I enjoy doing still life as well. And when I do still life, I find myself just being quite academic about trying to achieve the quality of a glaze, the fold of a cloth, or whatever. And I guess it's just a discipline, and it's also just a place that I become quite. Well, painting in general, I think, is a calm place to be for me.
Oh,
But those
absolutely.
sorts of things, yeah, but that kind of work, it makes you really focus and really look and challenge yourself. It is quite a disciplined thing to do, but so I enjoy it for that reason. And then in the exhibition as well, there were another set of images, and they were a new turn in events for me, because I've tended not to do many things that have come from memory or from feeling only. I tend to always be observing, so observing the landscape, observing people. I've done portraits as well, not many, and I'm not into commissioned portraits at all, but I have done a few portraits, and I've done these little still lifes. This was the first time I'd started to explore more a memory or an idea or a thought visually. And it all happened because I fell at the beginning of lockdown very badly and ironically on the hill where I love to be. And I ended up displacing my scapula, my shoulder became frozen. It's had a whole lot of knock-on effects, even today. That fall was really a nasty fall. But I couldn't move my arm at all. I couldn't shift this shoulder forward, back, to the side. So I found the only thing I could actually do art-wise was with crayons, coloured pencils. So I would sit with a tiny book and do little A6 drawings. And those drawings became memories or recollections of walking on the peat road. And then I thought, well, what else, do I want to recollect? And so sometimes going back further into my childhood, and I think there's a lot of work to do there. I think I've only just scratched the surface of that idea. So that's been an interesting experience. I don't know where that's going to go.
That sounds like a very emotional journey. I mean, I don't want to sound too melodramatic, but if you asked me to draw my childhood, it probably would be a black piece of paper with greys and darker colours.
Yes.
But I can see how you can portray your personality through a piece of canvas or a piece of paper. And I know the photographs I've seen of your work, it's very emotional. Some of the images, they do conjure up certain feelings from the person viewing them. So
I think that those little drawings, they certainly were more, I think they're reaching to a more vulnerable place. And at the same time, as I say that, I'm very cautious about that too, because I think with artwork or photography even, I think when you put something out there, then there it is. And that's a little bit of you that's out there. And so I suspect...
Janice, what you just said is exactly what I've done. In relation to what we're doing today, we're having a chat on this video. To me, this is not just a vlog, it's also a piece of art, in my opinion.
Yes.
And I took the decision on, I think it was edition 5, to talk about my depression. And edition 5 of this vlog, I'd love you to watch it. It's me talking to myself. And it's turned out to be the most watched video of the whole bunch. And I did pour myself out to the public, which leaves you really vulnerable.
It does, doesn't it?
Well, all I got back from that mainly was people saying, thank you for sharing that. And you've now given me the impetus to go and speak to somebody about my problems.
Yeah.
And so sometimes laying it on the line and showing that personal side can be really scary, but it can be really beneficial at the same time, Janice.
Yeah, I
So
guess
what I'm
so.
saying to you, Janice, is if you want to open your heart on a painting, do it.
Well, yeah, with some caution, I think so. I say caution, I guess, because sometimes I think as well, the most powerful images are not unlicensed in a way by the person doing them. That sometimes when there's a restraint there or a boundary of some sort, it also leaves the viewer in a place where they can take that image further themselves or not, rather than it's all explicitly laid out. So there's a degree to which I think I want to kind of suggest, but not necessarily state, and allow someone to create their own thoughts around the image.
Yeah. And I think even the few things we've spoken about, I think we're pretty conscious of people who have not seen your work before, and I'm hoping that this will spark people into having a look and to appreciate what you do. So, I mean, talking of things you do, Janice, talking of things you do, you also, like I say, when I met you up at LERWICK, we spent that lovely evening at the LERWICK Hall where we had a bit of a sing-song, and I found out what a fantastic singer you are too, Janice. So, like I say, after I was doing my rendition after yours, Janice, so after you'd finished, I was like, I'll get my coat. I don't think I can follow that. So you kept that secret as well, Janice, that you're quite a fantastic singer. And I have done a little sample of your singing on a previous video as well for everyone to appreciate. So people check that out as well. And I met your, is it your son Finley?
Yes, yeah.
And what a fantastic character he is. And I'm understanding he's gone off to Oxford University.
Well, he's gone to do a theology course there, yeah. So he's just started that. He's in his first week now. Yeah.
You must be very proud, Janice.
Yeah, I guess I am. It's a funny thing when you say that, because I think, what does that mean exactly? I love him very much. I just and
he's such a gentleman. You've done a fantastic job, and I like to think I've done a similar job with my son Paul Jr. Yeah. So I look at Finley as somewhere that I'd like Paul to be.
Well, like I said also, Paul, about my friend Dylan in Zimbabwe, who the headmistress, who has passed away some years ago now, but Paul has to be Paul.
Yes.
I have to be me. I can't be Elin. And I think that's a very key thing in our lives. We've got to find our path. We've got to find our voice. We've got to be who we are. It's absolutely crucial. We don't try to be somebody else.
And that's quite right, Janice. I'll never be able to paint like you, but I will be able to talk cobblers on a video like this. So
you've got your own gifts, Paul, and you use your
gifts.
Yeah, you've got your own gifts. You've got your own strengths, and one of your strengths is admitting also your weaknesses. Because how many people are prepared to do that? It's like being honest about where our weaknesses are is a difficult thing. We don't need to tell everyone. But if that helps, that's also good.
Yes.
But at least if we tell ourselves, the main thing is to tell yourself and be aware. And I think in knowing your own weaknesses, you're more compassionate then about other people. So, and I have plenty weaknesses, Paul, plenty weaknesses. And that, and my journey has had very many ups and downs. It's certainly not been an even ride. And same with Finley. So it's how you process all of that that makes the difference, I think.
I mean, I knew you'd had a colourful lifestyle, Janice, and I didn't realise until speaking to you properly the amount of stuff you've got up to. So I think at some point in the future, I might have to do a part 2 catch up with you. But as is tradition on my videos, I normally get my guests to say a quick hello to my mum, whose name's Anne. So would you be kind enough to say a quick hello to my mum, please, Janice?
I'd be delighted to say hello to Anne. Hello, Anne. It's lovely to say hello to you. I hope you're feeling proud of your son, whatever that quite means. Yes, delighted to say hello, Anne.
Thank you, Janice. And I must say, it really has been amazing to be able to speak to you and talk about what you do. I mean, it genuinely is a privilege to have such a nice friend as yourself, especially, you know, living where you are, being able to communicate over this vast distance with modern technology. It's wonderful.
It's amazing, isn't it? I have to say, that never fails to amaze me how we can connect each other now with this.
Well, I was expecting to have a few more technical difficulties than we have, but I'm pleasantly surprised that it's gone relatively smoothly considering the vast distance. But anyway, Jess.
I think I'm on. Yes. No, sorry, that's fine. Yep. I think we're on quite a good network here because the surgery's down the road, so I think they get a priority. I don't know, that's what
I think I'm better than mine, Janice. But anyway, I'll just wrap it up now and say thank you very much once again, Janice, and I'll speak to you again in the future. Thank you, Janice.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul, and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Bye.
As I was walking all alone, I heard twa corbies rocking them in, tea and tea that they did say. Where shall we go and dine the day? Where shall we go and dine the day? It's in the Indian old field dyke, what there lies on New Slane night. Nobody comes and he lies there, but his hawk in his hand and his lady fair. His hawk in his hand and his lady fair. His hawk is ta'en a hunting gone, his hand he fetched the wild fowl in, his lady's ta'en another maid. So we may back our dinner sweet, we may back our dinner sweet. You'll sit on his white cloth Spain, I'll pipe gold his bonny blue wing, way look o' his golden hair.